Hey, good afternoon. It's Friday afternoon at 3:30 at Hope Recovery in the radio station Hope Studios within Hope Recovery, within Corona, within Temasco Valley. With just kidding. Um, so here we are. It's my favorite day, my favorite time. I'm so glad to be here. I did have to fight the traffic. That stinks. I was so excited because I got a job right down the street, and I thought today was going to be the first day I didn't have to fight traffic. But no, due to my own silliness, I had to drive home. Anyways, we're not even going to go into that. Why give anybody ammunition? Why would I give my guys ammunition for tomorrow morning? Silly me. Okay, so here we are on Friday afternoon. It is Men of Impact radio show, and it is my favorite day and my favorite time, and I get to speak to some of my favorite people, and that's what we do every Friday at 3:30. This is what we do. So Men of Impact. It started as a Saturday morning Bible study, 2 times a month at a church I was attending. Through this group, I met some incredible men of impact. Now, we still meet on Saturday mornings, just we don't do it at a church anymore. We do it at a Starbucks at Sycamore Creek Center off the 15 freeway, Indian Truck Trail exit. We're there from 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. every week, rain or shine. Well, not in the rain. In the rain, we actually come here. We are not affiliated with any church. We represent several different churches because the Bible teaches us that we are the church and buildings are simply that, just buildings. For more information about the group or materials, you can email us at menofimpact@gmail.com. Impact is spelled with a K. That's IMPAKT. Menofimpact@gmail.com. Isolation is not what God intended for us, fellas, yet that is our go to move. We actually spend money to build man caves. We go, we put cars in our garage so we can work on them to escape from, I don't know, life in general. I guess it's just one of the things that we do. And we think it makes us men. The radio show is just a manifestation of what these men did for me in my life. And also to prove to my daughters that guys like that really are out there. Uh, my guest every week is just a man who I consider to be a man of impact. His impact may have touched the entire world or just his family. Either way, I think this country, heck, this world needs to know that these real heroes exist in life and not just on some stage, screen, field, or court. I just think that's a big problem in America today is that that's who we point our sons to and our kids to, heroes who are famous or rich, and not the guys who are out there doing the daily grind. Now, these men are not perfect men, but they do understand that they can't be perfect and they still fight that way every single day, fight to get that way every single day. More like Jesus, less like them. We as men are called to be spiritual leaders in our families and our communities and the world. I hope tonight encourages anybody out there that's listening that there are such men out there in our cities and our country. Give you a little bit of hope. I hope it encourages anybody who might be going through one of the things that we discussed today, that there is hope. We as men need to step up and be bold and courageous in our beliefs, our values, and our morals. If we're going, if we were doing that like we're supposed to do it, what we ordained to do, we wouldn't have things like foster care, adoption, single moms, CPS, rehab, maybe not even prisons. We've got to bring the family back ASAP for this country, and it's got to be on the men. Um, Iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens and influences another through discussion. That's kind of what the show's about. We just want to take away the stigmatism of men talking, men sharing, men being vulnerable. So my guest today is a teacher who teaches in Riverside County. And he's had some special challenges this last year, this COVID year, and they're coming out of it now. So I wanted to bring him on here because kids are back in school. I want to discuss some of the things that he may have experienced, challenges that he had getting to it, getting through it, and getting past it. Those challenges might be business, personal, relational, and different relationships in his life. So my guest today is Jeff Jambretz. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself. Mention those jobs and a little bit about your family, and then we'll get into it.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on the show, Anthony. Jeff Jambretz is my name, but you guys all know me as Jambo, and that's kind of how I get through the world right now. I have my beautiful wife, and we've got, between the two of us, we have 5 boys ranging from the ages of 23 all the way up to 33. And we've got 2 great grandchildren, Axton, who just turned 4, and Emma, she just turned 3. And really, that's been the blessing in COVID, is the fact that being held from our jobs, we got to spend a lot of time with our grandkids. So, and because all of our kids live close and our grandkids live close. So the blessing from God through COVID was the fact that we got to spend time with our grandkids. I am an educator in Riverside County. I teach at Riverside Poly High School. I'm also working with the Bureau of Education and Research as a national presenter on teaching. And I also work for Riverside County of Education, training new teachers across the state of California. And I have 4 candidates this year that are going to be completing their credentials. So I'm kind of excited about that.
And he's a published author. He did inform me that you can't get the books at Barnes and Noble. They're more of teacher books, right?
They're teacher books that you have to actually attend my seminars to get the books. So.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's the organization that I work for, the Bureau of Education and Research out of Seattle. They got me to write the books, and then they publish them. It's all my copyright, but yeah, to get my book, you have to attend the seminar. So.
And the seminar is what is the seminars about?
The seminars are using the 2 different seminars that I do. One is on technology in the classroom, and it actually fit really well. They had me do a quick, I mean, they made me write a book in 2 weeks, and to turn it around, because as the world transitioned into this virtual learning, it was, how can we use technology to enhance our science curriculum? How can we still do labs? How can we still do all the engineering pieces so our kids are prepared to go to college? So.
Okay, so when this all hit, so you were tasked with, so that is that's a countywide thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So they have to, schools and teachers have had to adopt some of these things that you wrote, huh?
Exactly.
He's famous, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I'm not. All the praise goes to God, because it's like, without him, I wouldn't have wrote that book in 2 weeks. So
without him, you would have just said, no, I can't.
No, I can't. That's right.
Find somebody else.
Yeah.
So when all of this was hitting, so now here you are, you have to learn how to transition.
Correct.
Then you have to put it in writing, how to transition for other people. Then you had to transition.
Correct.
So just going back, let's go back to when did schools stop? Was it last March?
March 13th.
March 13th.
Of 2020.
Of 2020.
The world stopped, according to us. So.
Right. So let's start on March 14th. On March 14th, there's some panic. Teachers, kids.
There's some talk around our school. There was some talk. Now, being a biology teacher and a science guy, a lot of people coming to you. Hey, is this what's really is this? What is it? What's it all about? I had just brought back my students from Death Valley. We were in Death Valley for a week. So we came back into this, what's going on? What's happening? And then I'm like, well, okay, so let me do some research, and got together with the kids. And then we're like, well, okay, I think this is where it's headed. And then all of a sudden you guys have to go home and you're not allowed to come back. They gave us a half-hour warning and just said, this is it. We're out. And until we can figure out what's going on with this virus, we're out. So it was a quick transition. For a lot of teachers, it was the first time they ever encountered this much technology, because they were forced from teaching the way they've been teaching for 30 some odd years to going, I have to do this on a computer. I barely, I always joke, because when I started teaching, there wasn't even the internet. So it's like, that's how long I've been teaching, Anthony. Just so it's like, so I've transitioned throughout the years, but a lot of teachers are like, I just got put into this. So my seminars became really popular because of the fact that some people didn't even know how to assign work on the internet. So from the teacher's side, I know the kids were panicking about it, but the teacher's side, because one thing, you don't go into education if you don't care about people. So as
it ain't for the money.
Oh, definitely not for the money. Okay. And I'm not asking for more money. I make plenty. I'm plenty rich. I'm not one of those guys that are going to say, oh, teachers should get paid more. I get make plenty, but it's like, we go into for the love, and we want our kids to be successful. And now you've got 3 months of school left where your seniors are looking at you like, hey, wait, we have to get ready for college because we're going to be leaving. You've got your juniors who are going, wait, they canceled my SAT. They're all panicking, rightfully so. Like, what's the future hold for those kids? Now your freshmen and stuff, they were a little bit easier to deal with, but your seniors, they really kind of freaked out a little bit. And I teach a class of seniors. So they were reaching out to me daily. What's happening? What's going on? What do you know? So
they got a raw deal. The seniors got a raw deal.
Well, the seniors got a raw deal, but I also think last year's juniors got the raw deal because their prom got canceled. So everything when you go to high school and you're like, oh, we get to experience prom and you get to go, maybe have your first kid, whatever. And you go through all of that. Now those guys got their prom canceled. And now their senior year, they lost their homecoming. They lost their midwinter dances, concerts, theater, all of that. And now they're coming back for 6 weeks of school. And we're trying to cram it all in right here at the end so that they could have a little bit of an experience.
Do they get their prom?
No, they don't get their prom.
So they didn't get it as a junior or as a senior.
No.
So they just don't get a prom.
Nope.
2 years worth of kids across America that just didn't get a prom. I never even thought about that.
I mean, there's the other things other than just school.
Yeah.
One of the things that that's why I think it's so important to go back to school, because the mental health of our students has really suffered a lot. I know you got some guys on the show talking about mental health issues, but there are huge mental health issues with our kids that are sitting at home, not knowing what the future holds. I remember being a kid. I knew, okay, August to May, I'm going to school. That was my life. And then in the summer, I had summer to do whatever I wanted to do. But these kids were all of a sudden, that's all taken away from them. So,
not to mention their last year. I think about the athletes too. And
last year wasn't so bad because all of them were signed, or if they had their scholarships or whatever, that was kind of taken care of. But this year, the kids trying to get scholarships and stuff, it's been a really stressful year.
Really stressful year.
And that's just on the kids. You want to talk about the teachers. It's there too, because we are compassionate. We do want to have our kids succeed, and unfortunately, like the media really kind of jumped on that bandwagon of, the teachers are, are they working as hard as they're supposed to be? And I can tell you, every teacher I've talked to, I've taught over 30 years. I've never worked this hard. Okay. I've never worked this hard this last year. And that pretty much goes across the board, because we are trying to reinvent ourselves, making sure that our kids get what they need to be successful in life, because we at least have to assure them of that.
Now, isn't there a teacher shortage right now?
There's always, there has been a teacher shortage, and it's gonna get even more of a shortage across the United States right now.
Right. And for a lot of different reasons. Like I remember when I was a kid, sports were free.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They were free, right?
They were free. Yeah. You showed up, you went to play sports.
Right.
Yeah. And heck, even though I was in high school, I was in the orchestra. So they gave you an instrument to use the whole time. You didn't have to buy one. You didn't have to pay for anything. It was free.
Everything was free, right?
Yeah.
Now everything costs money.
Yep.
And a lot of it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And teachers are spending their own money on supplies. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Out of my pocket alone this year, I've probably spent over $1,000
on supplies
for my classroom.
But I'm not even going to get into I just don't, because I got a real problem with how we treat education in America. I'm sure you do too. You're a teacher. And I got a real problem with it simply because we're nowhere without it.
Correct.
Right.
I agree.
Just a bunch of knuckleheads. Right.
Yep.
And can I say the government? I can say the government. The government chooses to, when they cut funds, they choose the school a lot of times.
Or they don't necessarily cut funds from school. They just reposition it.
Yes.
They rearrange it a little bit.
Right. I believe way back 15, 20 years ago when the lottery started, it was all going to schools, right?
Supposedly.
So we should have tons of stuff for you guys. I don't understand how a teacher, anybody listening, any of you guys out there listening, I don't have no idea how a teacher has to spend their own money. It doesn't make sense to me. And anyway, so I know
Anthony, just to kind of defend the system a little bit, I spend my own money mainly because I can. Okay. And I don't want to have to wait to get it approved, to get this, to get that, to get, wait the 3 months to order it. I'm impulsive when it comes to my students. If my students say they need something, I'm just going to go buy it and give it to them. And that's just how I do it. So, okay, I'm not like all teachers. So let's just start. Not everybody's spending this kind of money.
Oh, understood.
Okay, all right.
But to get to certain places, you do.
Yes.
To get to somebody who's as who's as dedicated to their students, to a very dedicated teacher, they're going to do the same thing. There's teachers like you, right?
Absolutely.
And there's teachers not like you.
Yeah.
Just it's right.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm just blessed enough that I can afford to do that. I mean,
so let's go to March 14th.
Okay.
On March 14th, nobody's going to school. That was the first day you didn't go, right?
Correct.
Okay. First day the students didn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
So that had to be a madhouse day in people's minds, and it's the administration for the school.
It was a little crazy. I mean, granted, it was a Saturday. They shut us down on a Friday, but that Saturday, we all woke up going, "What are we doing Monday?"
Right.
Because we know our kids are going to want to know. Parents are going to want to know. Everybody
wants to know.
Everybody wants to know. So do we. So what's Monday going to look like? So there was a lot of phone calls, emails, on my part, a lot of prayer to get through that first weekend, just because I didn't know what it was going to look like,
So what did Monday look like?
I don't know if I can say that on the radio. Monday was entertaining. Let's put it at that. It was a day of, this is how we're going to do it. And nothing was wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. It was okay. We're going to do this. But as we went through the day, it kind of changed. I mean, let's put it this way. My principal says it best. He says, we're flying an airplane and we're building it as we're flying it. And that's literally what we've done for the first, 6-7 months of this shutdown. Was we're flying the plane, but we're building it as we're flying. So
how long did it take before you were up on Zoom in classrooms?
Well, for me, I was up the first day.
You're up on Monday.
I was ready to go. But okay, Anthony, before.
No, how long before the school and students were attending?
Oh, students got comfortable with it. Couple months. Because at the first part of it in the transition, our kids didn't necessarily have to attend. So, there wasn't a mandatory attendance piece. Right. It wasn't until August when the official new school year started where we started really counting attendance and all of that. But like for my students, they just transitioned to being online, and they were like, the only difference is you're not standing in front of us, Mr. Jambretz, you're behind a computer screen. So, and that was my goal with my seminars, to get people to that level of comfort, was to, okay, your students should at least know that you're still there. And that's basically what we built.
So now you're not in class, right? And we've talked. I know you well enough to know that you're a people guy.
Oh,
so now you're not in class. We've already established here today how much you care about your students. And so how did all of a sudden you don't get to go to school?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at it.
What am I touching?
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
So I know you can still hear me.
As I tell my students, technology is great when it works.
So, and we've already established, that your compassion and your desire to be around the kids, your desire for them to be in school,
mm-hmm.
And because of the challenges that they meet, mental health wise, were there challenges for you on that level?
I hope my wife's not listening, because she'll call in and take the whole time. But no, based on how, and you guys know me, the guys in the group know me too. It's like, I'm a people person. I need to be out there. Most teachers are. We need that human contact. And I can tell you, at first, didn't really bother me, because it was the end of the school year and we were kind of hoping it would just be 6 weeks, because that's what we had left when we got shut down. We were hoping it would just be 6 weeks, and then we'd all have it figured out by August when we started back up again. And then August came and they said, nope, you're not even going to be on campus. You're not going to be, and now it started a whole new school year without my students. And for me personally, I thought I could handle it. Again, there's my mistake. I got this. I got this. How many times you say that in the group? I got this. Yeah. And I did great for about 2 weeks. And then the depression started to creep in. And middle of September, extreme depression, to the point where I don't even know why I was doing this. Didn't know. The anger came out towards my family, towards my wife, and finally, my wife, man, she's a saint. She puts up with me, and she's the one, and she always has been a very good judge of this. She'll look at me and go, you need to get out of here for a while. I mean, okay, when I started school in August, I don't think I left the house for a month and a half. Okay, because I was teaching and I was doing my seminars on the weekend, and then I was doing this. If I left the house, I was coming to see you guys at the group, and that was maybe an hour and a half a week. Otherwise, I was locked in my house, and and by myself because my wife went to work. She wasn't, she was allowed to go back to her job. My stepson, he was in college, so he was off doing his thing, and my son that lives at our house, he was still working. So literally, I was home all by myself. And as a person who has to be around people, depression became really, really bad, deep depression. And then anger came out, and then all that stuff that men aren't supposed to have. So, but um, yeah, it was a rough go for a good month and a half. I never felt right for a long time.
Yeah, and that was the time
Mhm.
when we were missing you on at the group too. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's when I didn't feel like going to group. It was, what's the point? I'm fighting depression, and I'm like, well, where's God? It's like there's that devil. There was that crack. I always say there's always that crack. But the one thing I've learned throughout my whole life, and especially in my career, is the fact that God's always there, and God will never let you down. And eventually I came back around. I got to go back to group. God finally woke me up in the middle of the night one night, like, hey, I remember 2 o'clock in the morning. I remember sitting in my bedroom and just sitting there. And my wife was sleeping, and dogs are sleeping, and I'm just like, why am I awake, God? How come I can't get back to sleep? And God's like, I need to talk to you. And he did. And it was, I got to get back to group. I got to get back to studying the Bible. I got to get back to praying. I got to get back to my routine, because that is one of the things I lost too. When you get out of school, school's a good routine. There's a
Yeah.
certain time everything happens. So I had my life built around that. And I realized I lost that. And that's when I started coming back to group, and going back to you guys has been amazing. Shout out to all you guys out there, because you're all very important to me and how I've gotten through this. Saturday mornings are fantastic. Wednesdays, our Bible study is great too. And just getting filled up. I remember you saying when I first started coming to the group, I don't even you remember saying it, but you said you got to get filled up to pour out, and if
you're not getting filled up, you got nothing to pour out.
Correct. And I remember that. That's one of the things I mean, you just kind of said it in passing. I think it was at the end of one of our Saturday mornings when I first started coming. And I'm like, oh, that's deep. I like that. So I kind of use that. That's what I use the groups for. That's why I read the Bible every day. That's why I'm praying every day. I'm praying on the way to work. I'm praying. That's my routine. So, yeah. So the group really, and I miss the group. The guys are there. One thing I got to say to all the guys out there: if you don't have somebody holding you accountable, or you don't have a guys group, find one, because they're huge. I got lucky going to my Wednesdays group, because my wife said, we've done couples group, we've done all that kind of stuff at church, and it was like, okay, let's try. I said, she said to me, let's try something different. I want to go to this mom's group, not a mom's group, like a woman's group. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? It's like, I need a group. So like, there's a men's group starting on the same night. So that's how I started. And just, that's where I met Wes and some of the other guys you've had on the show. And it's like, wow, and even like Wes is a married guy that's been to all the you're in a couples one now again, but you understand how it's nice to have that men's group.
It's required.
It is required. It should be required.
It should be.
Yep.
Was that your first experience ever of a men's group?
It was the first. I mean, I had one when I was a little kid, going with my dad to his men's group, but I didn't know what that meant. Right. So, but yeah, that was my first experience, and it's
completely different.
Completely
than what you would think.
Yep.
And B, what it is.
Yeah.
It just.
And then Saturdays, Chip, got a shout out to Chip. He worked on me for a year and a half. Hey, what are you doing Saturday mornings? Hey, what are you doing Saturday morning? And of course, I had every excuse in the book. Oh, I'm too tired. I've been working, or I had a football game last night. So I got to, and all this kind of stuff. I'm just every excuse. But man, when I first started coming, it's been a game changer. Both of those have been a game changer.
It's a game changer. And I was telling my wife, we were going to couples group one night, and she goes, oh my gosh, if we're going to be sitting outside, I'm not going to go. And she sends a message. If we're going to be sitting outside, it's too cold. I'm not going to go. And I looked at her and I said, please don't hit send. There's guys on my Saturday morning.
36 degrees, Anthony.
That's right.
36 degrees.
They don't care, baby.
We don't care. We're showing up.
They're not going to feel sorry for you if we're sitting outside. There's no sympathy. I go, here's the talk off. Jesus hung on a cross and sacrificed his life for you. You can't give an hour and a half in the cold.
That's right.
I said, honey, they don't even let me go inside when it's cold anymore. I go, so please don't say that. Please do not say that. But she did anyways.
She did.
I was like, oh, great. I'm gonna have to hear about that on Saturday mornings. Because, and the reason I say that is just that men's group is well, that's why we're here. We're here because of a men's group. We're sitting right here because of a men's group, and Men of Impact has changed my life, and you get to. I guess you don't. Did you grow up in the church?
I did grow up in the church. Growing up, I'm originally from Wisconsin, good Midwest boy. So sorry, I am a Packer fan, Anthony.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I almost wore my Angel stuff too. So I left it in the car. Left it in the car for you. But I'm a Packer fan. You know, my second favorite team is whoever's playing the Cowboys. But that's okay. I got to give that to you, Anthony. But no, I grew up in the church. You know, I grew up with that whole philosophy of, hey, you go to church on Sunday. You know, my mom was in the choir. My dad was, what do they call it, councilman or whatever. You know, he was part of the church that way. He was a head usher. And I tell you what, we had the same pew. Okay. Everybody sat in the same pew every Sunday. Now I moved away and it's been 20 some odd years. My mom passed away and we had to go back for the funeral. And we went back to the funeral and everybody was in the same pews as 20 years ago. But now the kids were older and they had their kids, but they were in the same pews. So yeah, I grew up in that kind of church. I grew up with that. We were in church, 5 days a week. My parents were in charge of, we were Lutheran church. So they had the Luther League. They had all that kind of stuff. And, my dad actually kept trying to talk me into becoming a pastor. He said, oh, you'd be really good at being a pastor. You can get out there and be a pastor. And I'm like, Dad, I don't want to be a pastor. Dad, I'm a high schooler. I'm chasing girls and doing all this I'm having a good life. I don't want to be a pastor, Dad. Because, my interpretation of a pastor was something different than what it is, what I consider a pastor today. But it's like, okay, I don't want to do that. But, what's funny is that as a teacher, I am a pastor. Yeah. And I have that opportunity to do that. And it's like, I know my dad's looking down from heaven going, see, I told you.
When I first got saved, I thought I wanted to be a pastor. And then I started getting to know pastors and everything they have to do and what that job entails. And you can have it. I don't want all those pastors out there. Shout out
to those.
Praise God.
Praise God they're there.
Yeah. And I praise God that he gave you the gift and not me. So this is as much talking as I want to do is on the radio. So now we're getting ready to, but there's a couple of things I want before we break. Men of Impact, Men of Impact, Impact with a K. If you want to get in touch with us, okay, guys, listen, you can email us, menofimpact@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page for Men of Impact with a K, Impact with a K. We have an Instagram page, Impact with a K, @Men of Impact. We have a website, www.menofimpactwithak.com. Right. So if you want to know what Men of Impact are up to, you can go to the website. You can go to the Facebook page. I'm not great at updating any of them, but there is I'm not going to lie. I'm just not going to come on a show, talk about Jesus and lie to you guys. I'm not a professional. I do this because I'm trying to give back. And I know a lot of guys out there that have a lot to say, and there's lots of men out there that really need to hear some stuff and need to take away some of the stigmatism that, men don't feel, shouldn't communicate, that kind of stuff. So that's really why I'm here. I got to give back some way. So we are going to take a 5-minute break, but give me one more minute. It is starting right now, but part of the break is, listen, I always tell you guys, listen, don't do anything without telling me, without sending me an email. I know a guy. Doesn't matter what it is. If you need something built, I know a guy. If you need teaching seminars, I know a guy. You teachers out there, if you need financial advisors, I know guys. If you need taxes, I know a guy. If you need your credit restored, or you need your student loans. A lot of programs out there, people are getting ripped off right and
Mhm.
left on their student loans just because nobody's going to tell them what they could do or what's best for them. Listen, guys, especially on your student loans, they're just not going to, your servicer's just not going to call you up and tell you, hey, here, I got a better program for you where you can pay less money. They're just not going to do that. But, anyways, student loans, all of these things, I can help you out. I know a guy.
You
And,
do.
and if I don't know a guy, I know a guy who knows a guy. And if he doesn't know a guy, he knows a guy who knows a guy. And I promise you, the only people we're going to send you is people you can trust, people that are honest with you. So we're going to take now it's a 3-minute break, 3.5-minute break. So everybody will be right back. Thank you very much. And listen, check out my buddy Brian's School of Sweat. Phone number is going to be right on the screen for you. Okay, and we're back. Thank you so much for your time here today, for just spending your time with us. I know, I just hope that whoever's listening, here's what I think every single week. Here's all I think. If there's only one guy who needs to hear our message, God will make sure, somehow or another he gets that message. But the other thing is, I forgot to mention, subscribe to the
No.
to the YouTube page, right? Men of Impact with a K. There's three things. I just learned this. There's three things you got to do.
Okay.
You got to subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got to hit the notification,
Right.
so that you get notified every week when we're on. Then you've got to like it. Four
Mhm.
things. I'm sorry. Like it. Then you've got to comment on it. The likes and the comments, what they do is they open it up for more people to see us.
Okay.
So the more people that can see the message, the better. Right?
Absolutely.
And our message is, like we said at the beginning, if you're not in a men's group, you got to get in a men's
Mandatory.
group. Mandatory. I don't know how. First of all, I don't know how anybody who is a Christian lives without a men's group. I don't know how anybody who isn't a Christian lives without God. So I just don't get it. But right now, I want to talk about something that you know, well, that you've told me. You're only the second teacher that's ever told me this. So Phil Behrman's wife told me that she does the same kind of things
Mhm.
by getting the Bible into a public school classroom completely legally, because we're Christians here. We're not going to break the law, but completely legally. Tell me some of the things that you do. Maybe there's a teacher out there or somebody out there, a student. I don't know.
Mhm. Absolutely.
That might hear it, needs to hear it, and might run with something like that. So tell me some of the things that you do, because you can.
Right. The first thing that I did, and I was like, man, how can I get this message into public school? I did teach in a private school. So when I was teaching in private, obviously you could talk about God all the time. We were praying, reading the Bible together before every class, during class, all that kind of stuff. It was fantastic. So I transitioned into public school, and the transition's like, wait, you can't do that. I'm like, okay, well, I can't do that, but I want to do that.
You can't even say things, right?
Can't even really say things, right? And of course, I'm a Christian, so I'm like, no, I want this to be part of these kids' lives. These kids, I don't know if they're getting it at home. I don't know, especially high schoolers, especially kids that are getting ready to go to college. I remember my college days. Okay. I'm like,
not a lot of church then?
not a lot of church. I had a lot of church growing up, but remember I told you my dad said you should be a pastor. Then I went to college. No, I don't want to be a pastor. Too many stories for that. That's a whole nother show, Anthony. But no, so it was like, okay, what can I do to get these kids? So I read the law. I'm like, oh, I could do that. So what I do now is, and it's not for show. I go in every morning an hour early, okay, and I pray over my students in class. If I know I'm having a problem child, let's say it was Anthony, I'd go to your chair and I'd pray over that chair that you'll have a good day, that whatever's in your life, that type of stuff, and that I can be a reflection of Jesus to you. And then I sit down and I read my Bible and I do my daily devotion and I do my reading. And then what I do is I used to just close my Bible and put it away. I'm like, oh, someone's going to see it and get me in trouble. Then I'm like, wait a second, this is my personal space. They can't tell me what I can't have and I can have in my personal space.
Is that right?
That's right. So my Bible sits there open in front of all the kids every day. I don't point to it. I don't bring it up, but I have at least several kids a year that walk by and go, is that a Bible? I'm like, yeah. They're like, wow, you read the Bible? I'm like, every day. And I pray every day. And it's because here's the thing. If they bring it up, I can answer their questions. I can't tell them that, your parents are wrong and God's better. I can't do that. But I can say, hey, yeah, I'm a Christian and this is what I do. You're allowed to believe what you want to believe. That's what I tell them. And over the years, it's, I've had kids multiple times as freshmen, as juniors and seniors, and they see the Bible and it becomes a level of conversation. And I have, social media that I use for my classes. Okay. And it's not school related. So I post a Bible verse, men's group, you guys shoot out things all the time. I'll repost it on my social media for that. And my students see it. And then next thing you know, you're getting likes. And next thing you know, you're getting likes. And what's nice about that is my students now are comfortable. And when I talk about some, like teaching environmental science, we got some issues, right, that we're talking about. And I actually have a few students that actually start talking about God in their responses because they're a Christian family and and I don't share that with the whole class, but it's a door for me to get in and start being Christians. And the next thing you know, we end up with a group at lunch that hangs out in my room. And if we need to, we pray as a group. Now, again, it's voluntary, so that's within the law. I can't not, if they
You
want
can't
to come
make
in,
them pray.
can't make them pray,
You
right?
can't make them come
No.
in.
And I was going to start a whole group on campus, but then I realized there's other groups already formed. So when these kids come to me, it's like, okay, what about this group? What about that group? Does it serve your purpose? If not, we have this group. I want to make sure, kind of like the men's group, I want to make sure it fits the purpose the kid needs in their life at that time. And I can't tell you how many kids it's been amazing to actually see that type of stuff. And then I have actually had kids come in the morning, pre-COVID, obviously, that would come in the morning and want to pray about something or want to help me pray over kids' chairs and do all that kind of stuff. So just to see that is like amazing, to see God working in an environment where, as I like to say it, you're not welcome. Separation of church and state, we're not, all that kind of stuff. But man, when they come in and they want to do it. It's not me they want to do it. Then, yep. And next thing I know, I start seeing kids wearing their crosses outside their shirts. I start seeing them carrying Bibles around and actually reading at like lunch. And
They're allowed to carry a Bible, right?
Yeah, you can't stop them.
Right.
It's a personal item. They can carry a Bible. They just can't, tell people about it. They're not, So the next thing you know, I noticed one of my kids just now coming back from COVID. I'm catching up with my kids. Hey, what's going on? I haven't seen you forever. They're sitting at a table in the COVID conditions and their little group, and they're reading the Bible at lunch in front of 800 other students. And to me, that's like, okay, that's what I'm here for. That there you go, Dad. That's me being a pastor, leading these kids to a better life and the way God wants them to be. So, I mean, that's heading down that road. We can get into that, that's, now it's kind of getting a little borderline legal or not, but the legal side of it, it's like, I do have my Bible out and that starts the conversation because all you got to do is wait for them to ask. Or even, I'll tell you what, the other one I was sharing out in the lobby with the gentleman, when we talk evolution, because I'm a biology teacher as well. Right. So evolution comes up all the time. So
all the time, I'm sure,
man.
So and you have to, so doesn't the public school put some type of restrictions on that as well? How you have to teach it? Because I remember for a while, I'm not sure if it's taught right now, but it was taught as fact.
Well, it's taught as theory. Okay. I mean, that's the word we use. It's theory, which of course means that there is some scientific evidence behind it, but it is not a scientific law. I feel like I'm talking to my kids again. It's like, so, and I always want to make sure the kids understand that. Because I always, and I don't care if I get in trouble for this one, I always say it's a theory of creation too, because there is evidence to that side of the argument as well. There's just not enough to make it a law either way. Okay. So when it comes to it, that's like, okay, the theory of evolution. Now, if you look up the definition of evolution, okay, and I learned this when I was at when I taught at the Catholic school. I'm like, okay, how do I get around this? How do I get around this? And they had a very good answer. They said, go look up the definition of evolution. Evolution means to change or adapt. Okay. Well, we've done that. Okay. Humans have adapted. You go back 200 years, we weren't supposed to live past like 30. Now we're living to 80, 90. Doesn't mean we came from anything else, but we've adapted. We've changed in some way. And so I walk that fine line. That, we have the ability now where that, and this is how I teach it in the lecture. We have the ability to change. Now, where that ability came from is your own family's beliefs. You guys know where I stand, okay, and how we got that ability. But that's as far as I can go with saying, well, God gave us that ability to change. It's like, so that's how I handle that. But it's a very sensitive, and it's really very sensitive to the students and families too. Because you do have the people out there that are strict creationists, strict evolutionists, and they want their kids taught a certain way or not taught a certain way. So I walk a very fine line. But the way I get around it is, and if you look at the California state standards, there's nothing about how life started. Okay. It's all about what's happened now that we have life. How has it changed? So I don't even get into what they want us to teach about where it all came from. So it's a fine line, but it's another opportunity because the kids start asking questions. Prime time. Well, you ask a question, I can answer it. And I don't tell them that up front, but if they ask a question about creationism, I'm like, okay, this is what we know. And this is what, I get into that whole, and this is the way I kind of bleed it in there. I'm like, well, you got the evolutionists who say there's no way, according to the Bible, they say that the earth is this old because we calculated it. We went through that. Then they did, Anthony. They really did. They paid a person to take the Bible and trace it backwards based on the Bible dates. How old is the earth? Okay. And it comes out to like, I forget the exact number, but it's like, let's say 3 billion. Well, the scientists say it's really 6 billion. So you guys are wrong. You Bible people are wrong. But here's the argument that everybody always makes. What's a day to God?
Right.
Because it says on the first day God created. Well, what's a day? We say it's 24 hours, but that's man-made. And when you start talking to the kids like that, they kind of go, oh. And now you got that seed planted, and they start asking more questions. Now they go back to me having a Bible out, or I accidentally have my cross pop out that I'm wearing, or those types of things.
Yeah, I once heard a science guy. I don't know if you ever heard of Kent Hovind,
mm-hmm.
and he talks about he I don't know if you've ever watched his seminar, but it's hilarious. He's hilarious. And one of the things he talks about is he takes his 12-year-old to a museum,
mm-hmm.
and she asks him, he says, this dinosaur is 600 million years old or whatever. And she says, well, how do you know that? And he says, well, we measure it by the age of the fossil, the age of the rock that the fossil was found in. She goes, okay, well, how do you figure out the age of the rock or the age of the fossil, right? She goes, well, that's easy. We figure it out based on the age of the rock. So they were dating the rock by the fossil and the fossil by the rock.
Mm-hmm.
So the 12-year-old says, that's circular reason.
Right? Yes.
That guy started going to church.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to church every Sunday. Now, that doesn't mean he doesn't believe what he believes, but he at least is listening to God. So listen, so when you got married, were you guys going to church?
No.
And how long after you were married did you decide to go to church?
Let's see. We got married, and then 6 months later, we moved to California. Both had teaching jobs.
Wisconsin to California. What a beautiful thing.
In January. It was a beautiful thing because the day we left, there was a blizzard, and it was like 16 below, and we're packing up the U-Haul to leave Wisconsin. So we came to California. Weren't going to church. I would say we didn't start doing church until our first child was born. Okay, so that was probably 2-3 years. So it was me, and
it's us.
It's us. I got this.
Yeah,
I know how to run my family. I'm a Midwest guy. We know that we're supposed to go to work, pay the bills. Wife is happy. Everything's good, right?
That's what we tell ourselves, right?
That's what we tell ourselves.
Happy.
Wife's happy.
She knows I love her.
She knows I love her. I don't have to show it.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday, my paycheck shows it.
That's what shows it.
There you go. I love you. I love the kids too.
Yeah.
Now get me a beer. Yeah.
But we never see you. Well, I know, but you see the money, right?
Right. You see me working.
Yeah.
That's what I was raised, and unfortunately, that marriage didn't last. My current marriage, completely different, she's a godsend, but my first marriage, it was probably till the kids. And then I think I only went to church because my mom wanted our kids to be raised in the church. So I found a Lutheran church in the town I was living in, and we started going to church. And that was it was just the Sunday thing, Monday to Saturday were mine, and Saturdays, for an hour were God's. That's how I started going back to church.
And what do we always say about that in group, about going to church only?
Church only is not enough. It's like, it's not enough. It's like, wow, ooh, I get to party, and then God's going to forgive me. It's like right now, like I'm reading Romans right now. And I love that part in Romans. Like, okay, now that God forgave us, are we supposed to continue to sin?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, so I go on Sunday, I get forgiven. Monday through Friday, woo, I get to do what I want. But in reality, it's like, no, we're supposed to be like Jesus. And, and then moving to Riverside, and then shortly after moving to Riverside, getting divorced there, and then went a couple of years divorced, and then God put this wonderful woman in my life, okay, who it really is my rock and my center, because she's like I told you, like, you got to get out of here. She's real good about, hey, you need to go camping. I'm an outdoors guy, grew up in the outdoors. That's what I did. So teach about the outdoors. I want to go out in the outdoors. And when I don't get to COVID, didn't get to go outdoors. But so that's what it is now. But even after I got divorced and stuff, I didn't church. Even though I know God moved me to Riverside, okay, I didn't go to church when I moved to Riverside. I had every excuse. Oh, I don't like that church. And I tried them all. I went to all different kinds of churches. And I'm like, I don't like that one. Don't like that one. I had an excuse. Had this, had that. And then I got divorced. And then all that stuff happens. And then I met this lovely lady. And she took me to South Hills. She's an OG. She's been to South Hills since it originally opened.
What's her name?
Susie. Back then it was Susie Veazey. Now it's Susie Jambretz. She's an OG. So she's been, and she walked away from there for a little while when she got divorced. Okay. But it had just her youngest son when he was in high school, went to the high school group because of a girl. And like most boys in high school do, they go to but that's good. Whatever reason we get into those groups, they're there. Yeah. And he really liked the church. And he says, Mom, why don't you guys come to church? And so we started going to South Hills, and the rest is history. That's my home. So
we were talking about, I want you to share the experience, but you were talking about how God is always knocking, right? God's always calling us. It's not that he isn't calling us every single day. It's that we're not listening.
There you go.
So we talk about that a lot on Ed Men's group too. So share with me the experience about Riverside.
Okay. So like I said earlier, I believe God moved me to Riverside, and I believe God tried to move me to Riverside for at least 3 years before he actually moved me to Riverside. And the story about God's always knocking, I always believe in my whole adult life. Even when I was in college, I believe God's always knocking, and he is. He's always like, hey, remember me? Hey, remember me? Hey, remember me? And of course, when I was in college, if I would hear that knock, I would just party harder. It's like, if I party harder, I don't have to listen to it. Right. Turn the music up, drink some more, whatever. Medicate myself. I don't have to listen to it. And then I could do it myself. I got this. And then when I became a dad, there's that voice. Hey, what about me? What about me? What about me? And just found some other way around it. And then, that continued my whole life. And it's happened. Things have happened in my life because of that. And then, but coming to Riverside totally is God talking to me. Okay. I was coaching up in the high desert and teaching up in the high desert. And a friend of mine had moved to Riverside, and he called me in yearly. He called me every February. I could almost pick the date. It was February 10th. I can tell you the date. It's February 10th. He'd call me every February 10th. Hey, you ready to come to Riverside? Ready to come to Riverside? And I'm like, no, man, I love my job. I love my life. I love what's going on. Don't bother me, man. I'll call you next year. All right. I'm going to tell you the same thing. And as I look back on that now, that's God knocking. But I didn't listen. God's wanted me in Riverside for a long time. He's had a purpose for me here in Riverside, teaching and so forth and so on for a long time. And finally, God stopped knocking, and he just kicked the door in. Okay. And by kicking the door in, I mean, there's a whole story behind that, but
they're usually not good ones.
Oh no.
If we wait until God has to kick the door in, usually the story is not what we.
I mean, the part I can share about is that I almost lost my career. Okay.
That's what I mean.
It wasn't a good thing.
It's never a good thing when God finally is.
No, I mean, here's a guy. I mean, I've been teaching 15 years. I got young kids, all this kind of stuff. And I lost my job and all this kind of stuff. And that had actually happened on February 7th when I lost my job. February 10th came. My friend, not knowing what's going on, called me. Hey, you need a job in Riverside? Oh, by the way, I do. And from there, I was hired and came down and started coaching here in Riverside, driving back and forth from the high desert and stuff to drive and all that kind of stuff. And it just felt right. And then finally I realized that's God. God's wanted me here a long time. And I have been very blessed by listening to God and actually, let's go to Riverside. Now he made me come here. And ever since he did, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pay attention to those knocks. But again, you're a typical guy. After God gives you what you want, you're kind of like, I got this. I got this. Okay. How many times we talk about that on Saturdays? It's like, I got this. And next thing you know, it's like, God's like, hey, remember me? Hey, remember? And then you don't, and you don't, and you don't. But God's always knocking. Like you said, we expect big things. Like, oh, I expect the mountains to move if God's talking to me.
Yeah.
I'm a guy, he should be talking to me. God's got to move mountains. When in reality, it's my friend calling every February 10th going, hey, you want a job? I got a spot for you. Just let me know. You can come down here and coach. You'll make more money, take care of your kids and your family better, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, in reality, though, it's like, I think we really got to pay attention to when God's telling us something, you know, and of course, men are stubborn and we
And,
don't want to listen.
and you got to not only listen, but okay. One of the things we talk about that we all do all the time on Saturdays, right, is that it's not even necessarily that we don't listen. We don't even give him time.
Oh, no.
So
Yeah.
it's not that we're not listening in as much as it's not like we just go, okay, God, what's your answer? And we sit for an hour and wait for the answer. That's not what's happening.
No.
We're just, okay, got to go.
Yep. Thanks, God. Thanks for the time. Got to go.
Thanks for the time. Thanks for letting me talk to you.
Right.
We don't have time for you to
Right.
talk to me.
Well, that's one of the things I like about going back to work now is because I get to commute. And a lot of people are like, commute? You want to sit in that traffic? No, nobody likes sitting in traffic. But why not take advantage of it? Okay. And when I drive, go up to 15, then you turn on to the 91, I'm looking right into the sun. And I always think that that's God looking back at me, shining down on me every day. And that's when I pray. And I pray. And, I pray as much as I need to pray. But the best part is after that, I got silence all the way until I get to work. And that's when God talks back. And it's like you said, time. And, find time because you got to find time to let God talk back. Because how many times we just sit there
and how many times do we hear almost every Saturday morning from Dad about our prayers, and the power that they actually have, and if we just ask God for the answer, He'll give it to us. And I'm one to tell you sometimes I just don't want the answer, so I don't ask. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm just
exactly.
It's just the answer scares the crap out of me. So, and a lot of times we think like when we're asking God for something like you said, I got this, He'll give us something, right? That was a prayer answered,
Mm-hmm.
and then we think that was His job. The rest is my job.
Right.
He put me here. He did that for me. He created it. Now I got this, God. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. I'm here.
Yeah,
like
thanks.
when I moved to Riverside, I got this.
Yeah, thanks for your help.
I did that.
Yeah.
I did that. Yeah. And my life fell apart. Got divorced, got bankrupt, all that kind of stuff. Right. And then, God brought me right back out. Okay, are you done? It's like, are you done? Is it my turn now?
How ridiculous is it, guys? Honestly, the reason we talk about this kind of stuff is just to let you know that there's always hope. God can always start over.
It's never too late.
It's never too late. Again, guys, like I'm gonna share with you right now is I have been in a profession for 25 years, worked my way to the top. I am an uneducated, unprofessional fool. And I worked my way, well, maybe not a fool, because the Bible speaks very harshly of fools, but I was a fool for a long time. So I left a career that I worked my way up because I just didn't want to do it anymore. I just don't feel like that's what God calls me to do anymore. I had a hard time. Had a hard time with it and my faith. So now, and I just didn't want to do the drive either. And then when my gas bill went up another $100 a month, I said, forget it. So now I just work right down the street. But anyway, give a shout out to anybody you want to say hey to, because we're out.
I know. I mean, you're not kidding when you say this hour flies by. But no, shout outs. I know my wife's listening right now. And of course, she is my rock, and I praise God for her every day. And I just give all the glory to God. And a shout out to all you men of impact guys out there. You are making an impact in the world, and just keep it up and keep inviting people to come because our group needs to get bigger.
Keep inviting people.
Keep inviting people.
Start your own.
There you go. Or start your own.
Right?
Let's dominate these Starbucks.
Yep. Only took two of us to start at Starbucks. So start. If you need any help, menofimpact@gmail.com with a K. Impact with a K. We'll help you out. We'll encourage you. We'll get you through it. We'll teach you how to grow it God's way. All right. You have a great day. Have a great week. Remember, I love you, but Jesus loves you more. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.